Hello and welcome again to our second in our three-part series of our Caregiver and Sandwich Generation Caregiver series. We're doing this with SWACA, the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging, and Katie Regan. And we're also doing this with Lisa Bisson from Masonicare, out of the Shelton office, but they're statewide here in Connecticut. Today's seminar we're going to talk about is time management tips in caregiving. And what we're trying to do here today is we know that people who are caring for those who are either their parents or a loved one, a spouse, or something like that, you have a life to lead too. Sometimes that involves younger children and other people in your household. Sometimes it's really just a matter of managing your own care and another person beside you. But in the end, it's really difficult if we start getting overwhelmed with a lot of time constraints and everything else. It can be very overwhelming at times. And so what we want to do is compile a list of 12 interesting and different tips that you can use. We're going to fly through this presentation, but we'll also provide this for all of you who registered and all of you who attended, and we'll make it available too for anyone else that wants to see it. But ultimately, I do want to thank everybody who's coming in here to talk to us. And let me get us onto the next page here. As we always do with Generation Bridge, the reason why Generation Bridge exists is because honestly, Christ touched my heart and said you need to do more. And therefore, I said, what can I do? And basically the idea of running these types of seminars and things to get people who have answers in front of people who have questions. Ultimately, most of the things that we deal with in our life stage issues, we oftentimes just leave it up to we make things difficult for ourselves because we don't want to necessarily open up to other people, tell them what we're dealing with. We think we can manage it on our own, and we're very stubborn. Humans are stubborn. We want to try to learn things on our own. Therefore, I put these things together because we have people that have been through it 100 times or 150 times or 1,000 times. They've seen everything. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, can I tap into what you guys know already? In today's case, because we're talking about time management, I really wanted to look at scripture and say, okay, where do we see opportunities for where it talks to us about planning? In Luke 14, verses 28 through 30, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. And I think we've seen some of those. I can picture one property around Shelton that a builder started and now it's overgrown. And I think it's one of those things when we come back to it's planning is not a bad word, right? It can involve a little bit more extra effort in the beginning, but ultimately it organizes our time, helps us to start to figure out where we need to dedicate more energy, and also make sure that we are giving ourselves enough time to do the things we like, to still be Brian Sherwood or Katie Regan or Lisa Bisson. We want to have our own identity too, and to be able to share your time across your other family members too. Um, Caregiving is a lovely thing, but it can be a burden if we get burnout. And so these tips that we're going to talk about today are ways to help you try to avoid that burnout phase. So without any further ado, though, I'd love to turn it over to Katie and introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind, from Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging.
Sure. Thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Regan. I'm the director of the Aging Answers Department here at Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging, otherwise known as SWACA. We coordinate a number of state programs, services, benefits for those who are younger disabled and for those who wish to age in place in the community in their home. We cover 14 towns from Monroe down to Greenwich. And I always like to point out that obviously you're watching this and you may reside in one of our 14 town regions, or you may not. You may live in Waterbury or New Haven or Norwich. So there is an agency on aging. We are one of 5 agency on agings in the state of Connecticut. So there is an agency on aging that covers each city and town in the state of Connecticut. So again, you can just reach out to us. It's a statewide toll-free number, 1-800-994-9422, and it will route you directly to the agency on aging that covers your neck of the woods.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
I'm going to go back into the presentation here. I think I actually may have unshared it and now I'll reshare it. But Lisa, would you mind introducing yourself while I do that?
Absolutely. I'm Lisa Bisson. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm from Masonicare. Masonicare has both senior living communities throughout the state, as well as home care, hospice, and other services that they can provide individuals who choose to stay in their home and age in place. I'm based out of the Shelton location, which is Wesley Village. We have independent living, assisted living, memory care, and a skilled nursing home. But we also have a portion of our campus that is Section 8 funded, which helps a lot of our residents who are either one, on a limited income, or two, have been here, have stayed with us for years, and are starting to run low on funds, but are still independent enough to not need to go into a nursing home. My role is really to work with families on determining what's the right path for their loved ones because there is no magic location, prescription, whatever that's going to work for everyone. So if you're in that situation and you're looking at what's going to work best for mom or dad, take a look at the Masonicare website, www.masonicare.org, and you can scroll through all the different services that they have available and then reach out to me and we can talk them through.
Yeah, and I can vouch too that both Lisa and Katie are very nice to talk to. So, without any
Thank
further
you.
ado, let's just jump into it. We're like I said, we're going to fly through a lot of this. Ultimately, there's a lot here, but this will be available afterwards. We'll make it available for people to download, and we'll send it out. So again, one of the things that we've recognized is that time constraints can be very taxed, and planning is real important for that. So first, the biggest tip in my mind, now everybody's going to have their own, but the biggest tip in my mind is mastering the calendar. I have multiple sort of businesses and emails that I have to reference every day, which also means I have multiple calendars. So I have one consulting calendar and another consulting calendar, and I have to rectify those things together so that my day doesn't get away. The same comes in when it comes to caregiving. Sometimes you've got to block off certain times for things like, let's say it's my kids and they have gymnastics and we have doctor's visits and dentist visits. And then if I was going to be doing something with my mom or my grandmother when she was still living, you'd have to dedicate some time for that. So having one central calendar, super important for me, that allows me to kind of make sure that I'm not overbooked and that I've built out some time for myself, especially if that appointment's going to require not just the time of the appointment, but maybe there's an hour ahead because we got to help
Mhm.
somebody get ready. And maybe there's an hour after because they need a lunch or something else like that that we need to do. So it's not just the appointment, but also the other things that go on to it. And then one unified place for my kids' stuff, my wife's stuff. We've found that things like the Google Calendar, where we can do that a little bit more interactively and put multiple people in there. But we also have this new thing. It's a little expensive, but it's awesome. It's a Skylight interactive calendar and everybody has their own chore list. We all have our own, what different things are going on for Maddie versus for Daisy. It's all in one place and it's digital, and we can use it right here in the living room. So those are a couple of things. I think it's just real important that you organize your time. You guys have any comments on that?
No, I live by my calendar. I agree. Um, I think like you have here this statement, predictability reduces surprises, which also sometimes can reduce some of your anxiety,
Yeah.
and feeling overwhelmed, which is what we're all trying to limit these days. Life can be stressful, period. So if you could just take a couple minutes and hopefully just organize if the calendar is for you, or some people are pen to paper and like to put it in one of those pocket calendars, that's great too. Just having it there at a glance for you, I think would really help to minimize hopefully some of the anxiety and stress.
And I
Absolutely.
will say
Go
the
ahead. Sorry.
extra time is so important
Hmm.
because, and it goes both ways, whether it's your kids or your parents.
Hmm.
Um, Even though we can get to the doctor's appointment in 15 minutes, takes a lot longer to get them into the
Yeah.
car and put the walker in the trunk and all of that stuff. And they're always ready early. So take advantage of
Hmm.
that time so that you can get them in safely and get them out without rushing. Because even though the Google Maps says it's only going to take 15 minutes, it's really going to take a lot longer than that
Yes.
just to get in and out of the car.
Yep. That's
Well,
a
that's
wonderful point, Lisa. Yeah. We call it
yeah.
backward math in my family. It's
Oh,
like
I
that.
like that.
Okay. The doctor's appointment's at 10, like you said, takes 20 minutes to get there, but getting
Hmm.
in the car or finding where your shoes are or, again. Yep.
No, again, I think that's just the key thing is making sure you've also maybe booked in some of your own time. We'll talk about that a
Hmm.
little bit in a later slide here.
Yep.
Um, how about this one? This idea of it kind of goes along with the calendar, but Lisa, how about this one? One contact book and not 10, like having all of the contacts in one place versus multiples.
Absolutely. And it goes as a reference for caregivers as well as your loved one too, because they want to have some sort of independence. So they want to know how to get in touch with their doctor and stuff like that. And just keeping it all in one place is so important. I remember taking my aunt to the emergency room and they were asking for a list of her specialists. And like off the top of my head, I knew there was an eye doctor, there was a podiatrist, and this. I didn't remember all of their names. And some of it's super relevant, but some of it might not be. But to have it all in one spot, it's real easy to just have an address book with everybody's information, and then
Hmm.
you can call them quickly.
No, absolutely. And when you think about all the different doctors and other things that maybe for case in point for my grandmother who was in Illinois, I don't know all those people. But there was a friend who did know those people who would take her to some of those visits and everything. And ultimately though, when it came down to when my brother and I were, power of attorney, medical and financial, it was important now for us to understand who is she going to go see, who are the doctors we need to be in touch with. And also just understanding a little bit more about even like her Medicare numbers and other things like
Hmm.
that in one place that we could both access at one time. We set up. You can do it now in a lot of different ways, but having even like a Google document or something that more people
Hmm.
can go into, that they can access it as a family care unit versus everybody kind of having their own way about it.
Hmm.
I
Let's
think
see here. So the next one, this one actually, I think, Katie, you are really well positioned to talk
Mhm.
through, especially with what you deal with the caregiver groups and everything, but protecting yourself from burnout. I know this doesn't sound like a time saver tip, but honestly, if you're burnt out, things are going to take longer. So making sure that you're in a healthy mind space, I think, is really important. But how can you do that, or what's the importance of that?
Sure, sure. Of course. And it is hugely important. We've all flown, probably. We've all been on that plane when they give you the little 411 in the very beginning, the flight attendants, and they say, hey, gosh forbid, in the case of an emergency, put that oxygen mask on yourself before you go and help the loved one next to you or the stranger next to you, regardless of their age. It's so important. If you can't take some time for yourself, whether that be, I always tell individuals I speak with, whether that be taking a walk around your block or going to walk aimlessly around Target. I find I love that. That's my happy space, Target. So whether that be, again, going to coffee with a friend or taking care of your own medical appointments. Too many times I hear caregivers say they themselves have not been to the doctor lately. They themselves have been neglecting their health. And I always, again, try to say, what happens if you are not there for them, So, because you're providing such tremendous, wonderful caregiving, but it is so important. It's not selfish. Many people think, to go get their nails done or to go and go for a stroll, that's a selfish activity, but it's not. And trying to, as best as you can, again, just like we all show up for work every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, trying to plan that in advance, making that part of your everyday role or task. Again, giving yourself a little bit of a respite in advance will, in the long run, help you out tremendously. There are a number of programs that the state of Connecticut offers, that the federal government offers, that, there's some private organizations, the Connecticut chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, the Parkinson's Society has a respite grant. There are programs out there to provide assistance and support to get that respite, whether that may be an aide coming in a couple hours, a couple days a week, or your loved one attending an adult day center, or a respite stay at at a skilled nursing facility. That all is huge to give yourself that break and that recharge, and by reaching out to your agency on aging, we've already done the work. We already have all those contacts, we have all those applications, whether there are programs that are state or federally funded, or again, the Alzheimer's Association or the Parkinson's Society. We have that information at our fingertips. So don't reinvent the wheel, just call us and we can send that off to you and help you through the applications if you needed some help. But there is a lot of support out there. It's just really picking up the phone and making that first call.
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget just how much is there. In that
Mm-hmm.
last webinar that we did the resources guide. Encourage people to go take a look at that on YouTube if you can. But ultimately, places like your senior center, your agency on aging,
Mm-hmm.
great resources for that. The other side too, and again, this goes back to my church, and as we're talking about this right now, I'm just thinking our church really could do better for that too. Like we really could create a core group of people who are willing to go visit and spend an hour or two with some of our elders who are in the church to give some respite for maybe those caregivers so they can go to
Mm-hmm.
Target, they can go to their dentist,
Mm-hmm.
do whatever else
Yeah.
it is. So I think it's real
Mm-hmm.
important. And again, I think you got to plan that out too. You should build in spaces, just like in my calendar every day. I try to build in some spaces that I can't get booked into a meeting for. That allows me to make sure that I'm going to have some time to either focus on something I'm working on, or yeah, maybe I need to do something where it's reading a good article that tells me a little bit more about my industry, as opposed to just
Mm-hmm.
letting that calendar get booked up. Decluttering
Mm.
the space and that helps to clear the mind. I can tell you, I used to be a part-time realtor, and this is one of the first things that you would say to people is the best thing you can do in terms of making that space better for being able to sell it is decluttering. Getting rid of all the stuff in there so people can see what they're going to do with that
Mm-hmm.
space. It makes such a huge difference. But here's the other side of it. If you're still in the space, it makes a big difference too, because there's a lot of things that can happen when you're living in an environment that has so much stuff around. And we all know that we accrue more. Like my wife and I keep saying, it's like we have to go through a purge every 5 years with all the stuff that we have. Um, but ultimately, you're going to clear out that space, and it's not going to feel so overwhelming. Because when we walk
Mm-hmm.
into a place that's all completely cluttered, it can feel a little overwhelming. You don't know where to start. Clean, orderly environment, really big help to kind of keeping that mind in a good place. The other side is, and this is the better side, right, is it can be a healthier environment for someone to live in too. Less things to trip on, less things to fall over. If you're working on the space and keeping it open and clear, it's much more manageable to move in and out of the house. So just some things there to think about when we're talking about like decluttering. It's a little bit work up front, just like the planning on the scheduling. But then long term, it's going to make a big difference for you in terms of your emotional well-being and your ability to move in and out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fly through to the next one here. Um, Maybe Lisa, can you talk a little bit about this idea of setting realistic expectations?
Absolutely. I deal with a lot of families who are looking at whether or not moving their loved one into assisted living is the right option. And the biggest holdback is usually guilt because we think we're supposed to take care of our loved ones regardless. And that is such an unrealistic expectation because when dealing with diseases like Parkinson's or dementia, we don't know all the answers. We don't know all the approaches. We don't know all the things that we can do to make their lives easier. But there are experts in the field who do know that. There are caregivers who are trained to care for somebody with dementia. And understanding our actual limitations, whether it be knowledge or our physical limitations, maybe mom or dad is really a two-person assist and you're not able to help them transfer or shower or toilet themselves anymore, you have to take a step away from the guilt and realize there are physical and knowledge limitations to what you know. I try to remind families looking at assisted living is that we have on a typical day maybe 50 people who are going to interact with your loved one. There's people who drive them to appointments. There's people who prepare their meals. There's people who clean their apartments or do their medications or help them shower. So we have a staff of 50 plus people taking care of your loved one, and you're just you. So you're doing the job of multiple people. And the brain is not wired to multitask. Despite everything you see online, your brain is a single process feature. And there's limits to what you can do. There's limits to what you physically can do. And there's limits to what you really know and have experienced and can implement. So the guilt shouldn't be about not taking care of your loved one. It should more be about giving them the best that's out there. And sometimes the best that's out there isn't always just you, whether it's bringing additional care into the home, tapping into experts, listening to programs like this, where you can learn how to do things a little bit better and learn how to pick up the phone and call the area agency on aging and ask Katie's team, like, who can help
Mhm.
me with this? Because
Mhm.
I don't know everything and I need help.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think
100%.
I think on something like this too is it's also, you cannot do everything at all times, and every patient is different too. We have to recognize that every patient is different. Some are going to be more taxing, some are not, right? And everyone's a unique scenario, and the people who might see this, you're going to be able to see or think about your own specific scenario. But I do know a friend of mine who is dealing with his mother, and he loves her, right? But he's an only child, so he's dealing with his mother, and um, she's pretty demanding, right? Like, hey, I'm your mom. You should be doing all these things. And he's like, but we have vacation already planned. Like, you can't book these appointments when we have vacation. And so in a situation like that, it's also setting up realistic expectations and being able to have that conversation with somebody to say, I have a life and we can do whatever we can plan around, great. If there's an emergency, that's a different story. But whatever we can plan, it has to be about a balance between all of us, patient, caregiver, and so forth. Um, on the next side, oops, I think I stopped sharing again, so I gotta share this again. Sorry everybody for my fat fingers. Let's see. I'll stop the share. I'll reshare, and we'll go back in here. All right. So, um, creating a family care map. So Katie or Lisa, but maybe Katie, what's the
Mhm.
importance of creating a care map or something like that that really gets the family working together?
Sure, sure. I mean, I know we've all said it before, it takes a village, right? So, again, the more that you can reach out and work with your family members or maybe close friends, or if there's neighbors or clergy that are involved, to kind of make like it states right here, like a care map that lists the certain tasks that are needed for your loved one and then who handles them. For example, I speak many times to family members who are in state. Maybe they're kind of providing the hands-on physical care or the grocery shopping for their loved one, but they have a brother in South Carolina and he does all the finances. Or they have another sibling in again in another state, and they're the ones who are going to be working with us on the Medicaid application. I mean, so again, trying to kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Again, it hopefully involves everyone so that, again, everyone is understanding what's going on, but not putting all of it on just one person. Because again, that's when the caregiver burnout and the stress and the fatigue we really see comes to a head. So we need to take care of our caregivers as much as we take care of the individuals who are needing the care. So again, just getting everyone involved and hopefully on the same page.
Yeah, and again, a lot of this falls down to that planning side. The
Mm-hmm.
upfront is the ask, right? The upfront is the time that it takes. But once this is established, then things theoretically should be much easier. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, getting everybody around different personalities, not often easy, but once it's done, then everybody kind of knows their role and what they're supposed to be do,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have accountability too, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we've got this idea of medication made simple, and I know you guys can talk through it. We're running up on, 4 minutes left, and I know, Katie, you have a hard stop, so I want to kind of fly through this. But maybe we take like a minute to talk about each one, and then we'll go from
Sure.
there. But medication made simple, I got to tell you, there's a lot of things out there to help you with medical, the schedules, the dosages, the time frames, all that kind of stuff. And I've just encouraged you too to really talk to your pharmacist or your parents' pharmacist,
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, a lot of them can do these pill packages or these pill organizers, or pill packs, sorry, pill packs, where it's all laid out. And you can track, is mom or dad taking the medication they're supposed to all day? Have they missed a dose? Have they done some of these other things? Not necessarily even that it's just in a pill pot, one of those pill organizers, but something that allows you to actually see what's been going on and if everybody's taking what they're supposed to. And that can actually be given to you most of the time free of charge for those that offer
Mm-hmm.
those pill packs. Um,
Brian, if I
joining
could just say
caregivers. Oh,
something,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, real quick about the medication thing. Two quick tips on that. One, when you leave a doctor's appointment, ask for a hard copy printout of their medication list.
Mm-hmm.
Get it directly from the doctor that shows exactly what they're taking, because we all know medications have generic names
Mm.
and common names, and it's Allegra or it's acetaminophen, whatever. And when you go to the doctors and they ask for the medication list and they use their technical name and you only know their common name, gets very
Mm-hmm.
confusing. Second thing is, and I know Katie will agree with this, the file of life on the
Mm-hmm.
refrigerator.
Yep.
Make sure anybody involved with the care has a copy of all their medications, their doctors and stuff, and make sure there's a file of life on the refrigerator. It's a magnetic pack. You can make your own. You don't have to buy it, but a lot of the ambulance companies and stuff give them out.
Mm-hmm.
That way, God forbid, your loved one is going to the emergency room. You are not there. The ambulance companies are trained to know to look for it on the refrigerator, and they can grab that and have all their current medications, all their current diagnosis, any specialists, anything like that would be contained in there that can help them at that point.
Oh, that's awesome. That's why I do these things, because now I got a little nugget that I didn't know before. So now I got something to take with me, and I'm a little smarter for it. Thank you for that. How about caregiver support groups, Katie? I know that you guys at SWACA
Sure.
have some really good resources there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No. Caregiver support groups are tremendous. I mean, of course, by all means, if somebody has insurance benefit and prefers to speak privately with a counselor, of course, we always encourage that. But a caregiver support group can be tremendous because, again, nobody is alone in caregiving. Whether your loved one is suffering from Alzheimer's disease, or your loved one has cancer, or you're caring for your mom, or you're caring for your brother, or you're caring for your next door neighbor. I've spoken at a lot of these caregiver support groups. We do have a list on our website. Again, your local senior center is going to know where these caregiver support groups are as well. Many local senior centers coordinate them themselves, or organizations like AARP, or organizations like the Connecticut Alzheimer's Association. And nowadays, with technology, so much of them are online too. Of course, you can still go in person. But if you're in that sandwich generation, you can't meet at 6 o'clock, the last Tuesday of the month, maybe a Zoom option is the right choice for you. I always do encourage people. Caregiver support groups can sometimes be kind of fluid. Somebody may be attending one for a year and a half, and then for a variety of reasons, they may back off. So, whenever you're looking on any of the websites, doing research for them, I do encourage you to reach out to the place where it is held, or reach out to the facilitator of the meeting to make sure that it is still happening on, Tuesdays at noon at the Trumbull Library. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than building out your time, doing everything that we're telling you to, and then you show up and now it's moved to Wednesday, so
that's when you go to Target.
yes, exactly. That's when you go to Target.
Katie, I know it's 2:30 and you have a hard cutoff. Do you want to just say real quick how people can reach out to you? And then Lisa and I, if you can still stick on for a couple of minutes, Lisa, we'll finish it up.
Sure. And I don't mind if it's like 5 or 10 more minutes, I don't mind. I can work with that and stay on.
All right, let's
fair.
shoot for 5 minutes then. Let's shoot for 5 minutes. All right. This other one here is the power of micro breaks. And I will tell you that this is one of those things that for me during the day, it's really good. I have sort of time built into my day where I can go and look online for something that's interesting to me. There's a little game on my phone. I can give myself 5 minutes to play my game. But those little micro breaks are real important because ultimately it just helps you break up the day that you kind of like take that moment to take a breath. Get a little bit rested again, and then start back up. Now that can be the case for whether you're feeling overwhelmed because you've got to go and do the next 3 hours at 3 different sports all around the town, or whether it's going to be that you've got work kind of asking you to do a lot of stuff and you've got commitments at work, but you also have to make sure that you've got time to go do some doctor's appointments or other things like that. So in those moments, even just taking a couple of minutes here and there to do something that you like, to do something that is relaxes you, real important type of thing to do in your day. Anyone else got a thought on that real quick?
I can tell you there's something to be said about driving without the radio on. And sometimes I leave work, and after talking to so many people and hearing so many stories, and my head is going a million miles an hour, sometimes it's just that ride home that you need to take in silence. And you don't worry about who's calling you or who's texting you or the noise around you or whatever. And just take that moment to kind of be grateful for what you had that day, and clear your head for a little bit. When we had little ones, we used to lock ourselves in the bathroom quick because that was an easy escape until they figured out how to open the door.
Yeah.
But sometimes just knowing when I'm leaving one place to go to the store to do grocery shopping or something, that's a good timeout I can take without any background noise.
Oh, excellent. How about this idea of communication rituals with the family? So figuring out ways that you guys can stay in contact with each other through either text chat groups or other types of things where you're just in touch with each other a little bit more frequently. What are your thoughts on that, Katie?
Yeah, I think that's hugely important. I also think that a lot of people are doing that, whether it's vast majority of us now, we carry our phone with us everywhere, right? So we're constantly in contact. So whether it is a family group thread, I know myself, me and my 3 siblings have one, a family group thread or an email chain, or again, my sister-in-law is from South Africa, and once a week they Zoom or Skype with her family. So it's kind of like Sunday at 9 o'clock, we know not to call over to their house, right? Because she's always, connecting with her family. So having kind of like that consistent, something that everyone might be able to look for. It's huge.
I think we might have lost your volume there a little bit.
Oh, hold on 1 second.
Oh, you're good now. We got you.
Oh, am I better now? Okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure where I got left off, but I was just saying communication with family is great.
Yeah, and I can say it's really good too with even our parents. So we have Grandma Osborne story time and we have Papa story time on
Oh,
Zoom every week, which gives us a half an hour where either our kids now read to them or they read to our kids. And then we can show that the book on the screen at the same time. And so it's a nice way to, again, we have it ritually every week at the same time. And then that
mm-hmm.
way we make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes. When we're not going to call, no one's calling us when we're doing those two things, which is great. Lisa, how about this idea of meal planning as a sanity saver? I know that that's a really good thing, obviously in the facility that you work, right? Meal
Yeah.
planning is a huge thing because everybody's getting the nutrients they need, but even at home, we can do a little bit more of that too, right?
Absolutely. And to try to eliminate the reliance on we call them TV dinners, but frozen dinners, the lean cuisines or
Mm-hmm.
the stofas and stuff like that. There are so many meal prep um businesses out there now.
Mhm.
There's the Pronto 123, I think it's called in or in 123 Pronto, something like that in Monroe, where you can literally go there and pick out pre-prepared meals that you can take home and put in your refrigerator to heat up.
Oh, that's cool.
And you have to, every person needs variety in their diet. And if
Mm-hmm.
you can plan out, you make your meals for your family, if you pre-prepare your meals for your family on Sunday, put aside an extra for mom or dad and know
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to bring her some nutritious meals. The
Mm-hmm.
reliance winds up being on cereal, on easy microwave meals that are super high in sodium and super low in nutrition. But there's tons of meal kits out there. Every grocery store has
Oh
rotisserie
yeah.
chickens and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. They've made it so easy on us to do that, so that we can provide some level of nutrition to our loved ones so that we eliminate their health from declining just because there's not a good meal choice for them. And I have a very good friend whose mom's favorite dinner was salted pretzels, and she ate. I had my pretzels,
Yeah.
and it was just like, make a turkey sandwich, make this, but the pretzels are right there in the container. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can make it as easy as possible for your loved one to just take out a pre-made sandwich,
Mm-hmm.
something simple that could be heated up quickly in the microwave, or even a soup that they could just put on the stove if they're able to, safely able to do that. And if they're not, then go the salad and sandwich route and just have stuff that they can take right out of the refrigerator and eat. So they don't lean on processed, quick snack foods that are low in nutrition and are going to make them really struggle health-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, I'm taking one keynote on that as well. Even if I just made one extra leftovers dish from my meals every night, that would be 5 meals during the week, right? 7 meals
Mm-hmm.
because that's all week long. And then froze that up, right? At the end of the week, I've got next week's dinners all set.
Hmm.
Right? So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking any more time. I'm actually just doing the same amount of work that I would normally do, but I'm packing an extra one aside, and then the next week that becomes the meals if I was to bring all of those over to my mom if she was local. Great idea. All right, let's see here. I think we're getting close. This might be the last part. But using checklists to lighten the mental load. I
Yeah.
put this in here because, again, checklists are very, very helpful in helping us to understand, like, did we do this? It's also good to have small victories. The second you can do that check
Yep.
mark, it's really nice to see something was accomplished. There are some really cool new technology or new, I don't want to call it technology, but new apps and other things like that. I use Trello for my business, but it's also great to put these little checklists in there, and then I can cross off and say, oh, this thing has been done, this
Mm-hmm.
project has been delivered. But you can also do it for the lawn was mowed and laundry was done,
Yeah.
all these things. And we have our chore list on that calendar that I was talking about earlier, where the kids now can go and say, I did my chore. They click it and they get a little celebration. And so these types of things where you use checklists to kind of not only organize your day, but to also kind of track those little victories and to see how much you've actually done, It's a really cool thing to do. And Katie, I know you're on your way out, but do you want
Oh,
to
that's
just talk
okay.
to this real quick?
Yeah, no, I love checklists like like most moms, right? But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think again, nobody's perfect. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect. Perfection is not, what we're about here, but anything that can lighten the load for you. So whether it's, and again, everybody's different, whatever works for you works for you. If it's like, a digital thing on your phone, fantastic. If it's just a, old school magnet, little notepad that you stick to your fridge and you write down what you need to do for that day and then you cross it off, or what needs to be done for that week, cross it off. I love crossing it off because I'm like, oh, okay, yes, I did that. So you can go online and buy the fanciest, check off little Pinterest, you could Pinterest your whole kitchen, or you could just get yourself a notebook. And again, and just communicate that. Again, if your loved one has a young kid, a next door neighbor, and he's willing to cut the lawn, great. Toss him $15. That's great. That's one less thing off your to-do list for that, for that weekend. So really just trying to reach out to your community that you're in, and just ask. Really, I always tell my family members, just ask, and I mean, you'll be surprised about the amount of people who are willing to help. But if you don't ask, they don't know.
Yeah, and if you don't have it down on paper, I think, that's one of the other things too, paper or
Mm-hmm.
electronic, but at least then you can kind of see these are all the things that need to get done. What can I
Mm-hmm.
offshore, right? What
Sure.
can I
Yep.
potentially get some help on, or at least
Mm-hmm.
ask about? I think that's great. Let me just see what's on the next slide. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we made it. Kate, Lisa, do you have any last comments too?
No, not at all. I happen to be a big fan of the very advanced post-it note to-do list. I have post-it notes everywhere, and there's no greater joy than ripping that post-it note off the wall and saying, "Oh, that one's done."
Yep.
Plus, it's accessible at all times. I can add to my post-it note wall at any time.
You could use
Mm-hmm.
color codes too, and you could say, "Hey, this is for my husband to do."
Sure.
Now,
All right.
that's
Well,
advanced, Brian.
that's advanced. That's right. Well, thank you guys very much. Real quick, if you can, just how that people can get in touch with you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. So at SWACA, you have our website there listed. Thank you, Brian. It's www.swcaa.org. That is our website. K Regan at SWACA.org is my email. But again, to reach any AAA, because again, if you're watching this and you're not in our 14-town region, to reach out to any agency on aging, you would call our 1-800 number, 1-800-994-9422.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie. Lisa, how can people get in touch with you?
If you're just looking at what services are available through Masonicare, I recommend going up to our website, which is www.masonicare.org. If you really are looking for somebody to help guide you and just answer questions or whatever, can always call me. The best number to reach me at is 203-225-5027. And we can talk it through. I can loop in Katie and Brian if we need
Mm-hmm.
to, but it's all about connecting with the resources and finding out what's available to you.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much, and God bless you. And we'll put this out online, and we'll get it out to everybody. And then we'll also make sure that we get that this presentation will be up online for you to download as well. Thanks again so much, guys, and you have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
All
Bye.
right, bye-bye.